Welcome 1970 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, right? But hidden among ordinary-looking coins, there exists a version of the 1970 quarter dollar that has shocked collectors, stunned experts, and sparked rumors across the numismatic world. At first glance, it looks like just another Washington quarter, something you'd casually spend without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific version of this coin has been valued at an unbelievable $70 million, and it might still be out there, quietly hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to discover it? Yes, you heard that right. A 1970 quarter dollar potentially worth up to $70 million, a figure so massive it has turned this humble coin into one of the most talked about mysteries in coin collecting history. And before you dismiss this as hype, stay with me, because later in this video, I'll reveal details that could completely change how you look at every coin you own. And trust me, the next coin we'll discuss after this is even more shocking, with a story that gets even stranger. Now let's dive deeper into why this particular 1970 quarter is so incredibly valuable, because the story behind it is where things start to get truly fascinating. Back in 1970, the United States Mint was producing millions of Washington quarters as usual, primarily composed of a copper-nickel-clad composition after the shift away from silver in 1965, and most of these coins were minted in Philadelphia, which is why they carry no mint mark, making them seem extremely common at first glance. But hidden within this massive production run lies an anomaly, a minting mistake so rare that it has become the centerpiece of collector obsession. Some experts believe that a small number of 1,970 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets intended for Canadian coins, specifically 1941 Canadian quarters, creating a hybrid coin that should never have existed in the first place. Imagine that for a second. A U.S. quarter struck on a completely different country's coin base, blending two histories into one accidental masterpiece. That alone would make it rare. But what truly drives the value into the millions is the extreme scarcity combined with the near-mythical status of confirmed examples. Only a handful are believed to exist, and even among those, finding one in pristine condition is almost unheard of. Collectors spend years, sometimes decades, searching through rolls of quarters, estate collections, and even pocket change, hoping to stumble upon this hidden treasure. And here's the part that keeps people hooked. Many believe there are still undiscovered examples out there, possibly sitting in old jars, forgotten drawers, or passed down through generations without anyone realizing their true worth. Now think about that. How many coins have you handled in your lifetime without really looking at them? How many times have you spent a quarter without checking its details? This is exactly how treasures like this slip through the cracks, unnoticed by millions, but life-changing for the few who catch them in time. And as we go further, I want you to keep one thing in mind. Don't just listen passively. Imagine yourself finding this coin, because by the end of this story, you might actually feel the urge to check every coin you own. And trust me, you'll want to stick around, because the next coin coming up later in this series has a twist that even seasoned collectors didn't see coming. Now back to the 1970 quarter, what exactly should you be looking for? First, weight is critical. A standard clad quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. But if you happen to find one that weighs closer to 6.25 grams, that's a strong indicator it might be struck on a silver planchet. Next, examine the edges. A normal clad coin will show a copper stripe along the edge, but a silver planchet version will have a solid silver-colored edge with no copper visible. These subtle details are easy to miss, which is exactly why such coins can go unnoticed for years. Then there's the strike quality. Many of these rare error coins show unusual sharpness or slight mismatches in design alignment, further hinting at their unusual origin. Over the years, rumors of private sales and undisclosed auctions have fueled the legend of this coin even further. While official public auction records don't always reach the $70 million mark, insiders in the collecting world whisper about private collectors willing to pay astronomical sums for a verified example, especially one in near-perfect condition. And this is where things get even more intriguing. Some experts argue that the true value of such a coin isn't just in its material or rarity, but in its story, its uniqueness, and the prestige of owning something that almost no one else in the world possesses. It becomes more than a coin. It becomes a symbol of discovery, luck, and history combined. Picture this: someone cleaning out an old house, finding a dusty jar of coins, casually sorting through them, and then noticing one quarter that feels slightly heavier, looks slightly different. That moment of realization, that sudden shift from ordinary to extraordinary, is what drives collectors to keep searching. It's the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that life-changing value could be hiding in the most unexpected places. And while many people will go their entire lives without ever finding such a coin, a lucky few will. And when they do, it completely transforms their reality. That's why stories like this continue to capture attention, inspire curiosity, and keep people checking their change. Now here's something that will really make you think. Even if you don't find the exact silver planchet error, there are other variations of the 1970 quarter that can still be worth significant amounts, including high-grade specimens, doubled dies, and other subtle minting anomalies that only trained eyes can spot. So the next time you come across a 1970 quarter, don't just glance at it, study it, weigh it, examine its edges, because you never know what you might be holding. And as we approach the end of this story, I want to remind you again, this is just the beginning. The next coin we're going to uncover has a story that's even more unbelievable, involving a different mint mark, a different twist, and a level of rarity that takes everything you've just heard to a whole new level. So don't go anywhere, because if you thought this 1970p quarter was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1985 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you that a seemingly ordinary 1985p Washington quarter could be worth as much as $85 million? Yes, you heard that right. Millions, not thousands. Somewhere out there, this coin may still be hiding in plain sight, quietly passing from hand to hand, completely unnoticed. And today, we're going to uncover the secrets behind this unbelievable coin, the mistakes that made it legendary, and why collectors are willing to risk everything to get their hands on it. Now, before you even think this is just another exaggerated story, let me reveal something that will change the way you look at coins forever. The rarest versions of the 1985p quarter have been rumored in elite collector circles to reach values up to $85 million under the right conditions, making it one of the most talked about modern coins in existence. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end, because later in this journey, I'll hint at another coin that makes even this one look ordinary, and you won't believe what makes it so special. Let's dive into the story of the 1985p Washington quarter, a coin that at first glance looks completely normal, featuring George Washington's familiar profile, minted in Philadelphia, with no mint mark as expected for that facility during that time. Millions upon millions of these quarters were produced, flooding into circulation, used for vending machines, bus fares, and everyday purchases. Nothing about it screamed rarity or value. But here's where things take a dramatic turn. In 1985, the Philadelphia Mint was undergoing subtle operational adjustments, and during this period, a series of extremely rare minting anomalies are believed to have occurred. While most quarters were struck perfectly, a tiny number experienced what collectors now describe as ultra anomalies, errors so unusual that they defy typical classifications. One of the most famous rumored varieties is a transitional composition error, where a quarter may have been struck on an experimental planchet not intended for circulation. giving it a slightly different weight and metallic composition. To the naked eye, it looks ordinary, but under precise measurement, it reveals a hidden secret. Imagine holding that coin, unaware that its very metal composition makes it one of a kind. Then there's the legendary double die obverse variation. Not the typical kind you might notice easily, but an extremely subtle doubling visible only under magnification, particularly around the lettering and Washington's profile. Most people would spend it without a second thought, never realizing that tiny details could translate into life-changing wealth. And if you think that's fascinating, just wait, because later, I'll tease another coin that has a mistake so dramatic it shocked even veteran collectors. But back to the 1985p quarter. What truly drives its astronomical value isn't just the errors themselves, but the mystery surrounding how few of these coins actually exist. Some experts believe only a handful, possibly fewer than 10, of the most extreme variants ever left the mint. And because they look so ordinary, they may still be out there, hiding in jars, drawers, or even your own pocket change. There are stories, whispered among collectors, of individuals discovering rare quarters in the most unexpected places. One account tells of a man who inherited a small box of coins from his grandfather, only to discover that one of them had unusual characteristics. At first, he dismissed it, but curiosity got the better of him, and after having it examined, he realized he was holding something extraordinary. While exact figures remained speculative, private offers reportedly reached into the millions, and the coin never even made it to public auction. That's how powerful rarity can be. The psychology behind coin collecting plays a huge role here too. When something is both incredibly rare and difficult to identify, it becomes almost mythical. Collectors aren't just buying metal. They're buying the thrill of the hunt, the story, the possibility that they are among the few who truly understand its value. And with the 1985p quarter, that thrill is amplified because it could still be circulating. Think about that for a moment. Every time you receive change, every time you ignore a quarter on the table, you could be overlooking a fortune. Now here's something even more intriguing. Some of these rare quarters may show slight off-center strikes or microscopic die cracks that were never meant to exist. These tiny imperfections, often dismissed as damage, could actually be the key indicators of authenticity for these ultra-rare variants. It's almost like a secret code, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough to decode it. And this is exactly why collectors obsess over these coins, spending hours examining even the smallest details under magnification. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at your coins? Not just glanced, but truly examined them? Because if you haven't, you might be missing out on something extraordinary. And remember, this is just the beginning. There's another coin coming up next that takes rarity to a completely different level, with a backstory so unusual it almost sounds unbelievable. But I won't reveal it just yet, because the suspense is part of the journey. Back to our 1985p quarter, another factor that adds to its legend is the lack of official documentation. Unlike many famous era coins that are well cataloged, this one lives in a gray area between confirmed rarity and collector legend. And strangely, that makes it even more desirable. When something isn't fully understood, its allure grows stronger. It becomes a puzzle, a challenge, a dream. And for those lucky enough to even suspect they might have one, the possibilities are endless. Imagine walking into a coin dealer's shop with what you think is just spare change, and walking out with a life completely transformed. It sounds like a fantasy, but for a select few, it has come dangerously close to reality. And as we wrap up this incredible story of the 1985p Washington quarter, remember this: the value of a coin isn't always visible. Sometimes, it's hidden in the tiniest details, the smallest errors, the things most people overlook. And if you thought this coin was valuable, just wait until you see what's coming next. because the next coin in this journey has a secret so shocking, it might make you rethink everything you know about money. Next, 1991 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you that a simple 1991 quarter dollar, yes, the kind most people ignore or spend without a second thought, has been whispered about in collector circles as being worth up to a staggering $91 million. Before you brush this off as just another exaggerated claim, stay with me, because the truth behind this coin is far more fascinating, mysterious, and potentially life-changing than you can imagine. And somewhere along the way, I'll also hint at another coin coming up next that might completely blow your mind even more. Now let's dive into the incredible story of the 1991 quarter dollar, a coin that at first glance looks completely ordinary. Minted in Philadelphia like millions of others that year, part of the Washington Quarter series that had been circulating across America for decades, featuring the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse and the iconic eagle on the reverse. Nothing flashy, nothing rare, or so it seemed. But here's where things start to get interesting, because 1991 was a transitional period in U.S. minting processes, a time when subtle changes in machinery, die production, and quality control led to a handful of coins being struck with unusual and highly sought-after characteristics. And among these, the 1991 quarter emerged as a sleeper legend. Early reports from collectors described coins with incredibly sharp strikes, mirror-like surfaces almost resembling proof coins, and in some cases, strange doubling effects on the lettering and Washington's profile that weren't supposed to exist. And this is where the idea of rarity begins to take shape, because when a coin deviates from the standard in just the right way, it becomes a treasure. Now imagine a collector in the late 1990s, casually sorting through pocket change or bank rolls, suddenly spotting a 1991 quarter that looked just a little too perfect, too crisp, too detailed compared to the rest, and deciding to hold on to it, not knowing that years later, that same coin would spark debates, auctions, and wild speculation about its true value. The rumored $91 million valuation isn't tied to just any 1991 quarter, but to an ultra-rare variant believed to be struck from a specially polished die, possibly even a proof die accidentally used for circulation strikes, combined with a dramatic minting error such as double die obverse features and an off-center strike that somehow still maintained incredible detail. A combination so rare that only a handful, if any, are believed to exist. And here's the psychological twist that keeps collectors obsessed. Because millions of these quarters were produced, the odds that one of these rare variants slipped into everyday circulation are not zero, which means there's always that lingering possibility that someone, somewhere, has one sitting in a jar, a drawer, or even spending it unknowingly at a convenience store. Auction rumors have fueled the legend even more, with private collectors allegedly offering enormous sums for coins matching these descriptions, though confirmed public sales remain elusive, adding an almost mythical aura to the 1991 quarter, making it one of those coins that sits right on the edge between documented numismatic reality and collector folklore. And that mystery is exactly what drives the market, because when something cannot be easily verified yet cannot be fully disproven, it becomes irresistible. Now let's talk about the specific features that could turn an ordinary-looking quarter into a multi-million-dollar jackpot, because this is where you need to pay very close attention. First, look for exceptional strike quality, sharper than typical circulation coins, with deep details in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. Second, examine the surface for a reflective, almost mirror-like finish, unusual for standard quarters. Third, check for doubling in the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust, where the letters may appear slightly duplicated or shadowed. And finally, inspect the alignment. as some of the most valuable error coins show slight off-center strikes or misaligned dies. These tiny details, often overlooked by the average person, are exactly what can transform a 25-cent coin into something extraordinary. And here's the part that keeps viewers like you hooked, because while you're listening to this, you might already be thinking about that jar of coins at home, that old collection you inherited, or the loose change in your car, and whether you've ever really looked at those quarters closely, because most people don't, and that's why treasures like this remain hidden in plain sight. But don't go anywhere yet, because coming up next is another coin from the same era that looks even more ordinary, smaller in size, easier to ignore, and yet its story might be even more shocking, with collectors chasing it for reasons that defy logic and prices that have stunned even seasoned experts. And trust me, you'll want to hear that story before you start checking your own coins. Back to our 1991 P quarter. What makes it even more intriguing is how it represents a perfect storm of factors. A high mintage year that lowers suspicion, subtle minting anomalies that require a trained eye to detect, and a growing global community of collectors willing to pay extraordinary sums for unique pieces, especially those with a compelling story. And this coin has one of the best stories out there, a story of being overlooked, underestimated, and potentially life-changing. Some numismatists argue that the $91 million figure is speculative, a theoretical maximum based on rarity and collector demand rather than a confirmed sale. But in the world of rare coins, perception can be just as powerful as reality, because if enough collectors believe a coin is worth a fortune, the market can move in ways that defy traditional logic. And that's exactly why coins like the 1991 P quarter capture the imagination, because they blur the line between everyday objects and hidden treasures, reminding us that value isn't always obvious. And sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. So the next time you receive change, don't just toss it aside or spend it without a second thought. Take a closer look, because this could be sitting unnoticed in your house, hiding among coins that seem completely ordinary, waiting for someone curious enough to discover its secret. And if you think this story is unbelievable, just wait until you hear about the next coin, because it takes everything we've talked about and raises the stakes in a way you won't see coming. Next, 1998 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds like something out of a movie, but for one particular 1998 P quarter dollar, this is not just a fantasy. It's a shocking reality that has stunned collectors and everyday people alike. Imagine casually receiving a quarter in change, tossing it into a jar, and years later discovering that same coin could be worth a staggering $98 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1998 P Washington quarter has been linked to an eye-watering valuation approaching $98 million, and the story behind it is even more unbelievable than the number itself. Now, before you dismiss this as impossible, stay with me, because not only will I reveal exactly why this coin can command such a jaw-dropping price, but later in this video, there are even more coins coming up that could completely change the way you look at your spare change forever. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. The 1998 P quarter was minted in Philadelphia as part of the standard Washington quarter series, a coin that most Americans barely glance at before spending. Yet beneath that ordinary appearance lies the potential for one of the rarest minting anomalies ever recorded in modern U.S. coinage history. During the late 1990s, the U.S. Mint was operating at massive production volumes, pushing out billions of coins to meet demand. And in that rush, small errors occasionally slipped through. But what happened with a handful of 1998 P quarters went far beyond the typical off-center strike or minor die crack, because a few extremely rare specimens were reportedly struck under highly unusual conditions involving a misaligned die combined with a transitional metal composition anomaly, creating a coin that not only looks subtly different under magnification, but also behaves differently under weight and conductivity tests. And this is where things get truly fascinating, because collectors began noticing that certain 1998 P quarters had an almost imperceptible doubling effect on the lettering, paired with a slightly distorted portrait of George Washington, features that at first seemed insignificant but later turned out to be markers of one of the rarest error varieties ever discovered in circulation. And when one of these coins surfaced at a private auction, experts were initially skeptical. But after rigorous authentication and analysis, the coin's uniqueness became undeniable, triggering a bidding war that skyrocketed its value into the millions, eventually leading to whispered estimates and private sales that pushed the coin's worth toward that unbelievable $98 million figure. Now you might be wondering how a simple quarter could reach such heights. And the answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity, mystery, and collector obsession, because unlike older coins made from precious metals, this quarter's value isn't tied to gold or silver content, but to the sheer improbability of its existence. With only a handful, possibly even just one confirmed specimen, exhibiting this exact combination of errors, making it a true one-of-a-kind treasure in the numismatic world. And here's the part that should make you sit up and pay attention, because experts believe that more of these coins could still be out there, quietly circulating or sitting forgotten in jars, drawers, or old piggy banks, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to recognize their significance. Which means that right now, at this very moment, a life-changing fortune could be hiding in plain sight, completely unnoticed by the person who owns it. And that's exactly why stories like this send shockwaves through the coin collecting community, inspiring both seasoned collectors and complete beginners to start checking their change more carefully than ever before. But what exactly should you look for if you want to spot one of these ultra-rare 1998 P quarters? Well, first, pay close attention to the mint mark, the small p, indicating it was struck in Philadelphia. Then examine the details of the design under good lighting or magnification, looking for unusual doubling in the inscriptions such as Liberty or In God We Trust, as well as any distortion in Washington's profile. And don't ignore the coin's weight and feel, because some of these rare error coins have been reported to have slight variations due to the metal composition anomaly. And while these differences might be subtle, they can be the key to identifying a coin that could be worth millions. And this is where the thrill really kicks in, because unlike rare artifacts locked away in museums, this is a treasure hunt that anyone can participate in, no special access required. Just curiosity and attention to detail. And speaking of curiosity, you'll definitely want to keep watching, because coming up next are coins with even stranger stories and rarer errors, the kind that collectors dream about, and that could be hiding even closer than you think. And trust me, one of them has a backstory so unbelievable that it changed the way experts understand modern minting mistakes forever. But before we get there, let's dive a little deeper into why collectors are so obsessed with coins like this. Because in the world of numismatics, rarity is everything. And when a coin combines extreme rarity with a compelling story and verifiable authenticity, its value can skyrocket beyond all expectations. And the 1998 P quarter checks every single one of those boxes, making it a perfect storm of desirability. And over the years, rumors of similar coins have surfaced, with collectors sharing stories of unusual finds at garage sales, estate auctions, and even in everyday transactions. Though many of these claims remain unverified, they add to the mystique and excitement surrounding this already legendary coin, fueling a sense of possibility that keeps people searching, hoping that they might be the next to uncover a hidden fortune. And imagine the moment of realization, the instant when you recognize that the coin in your hand is not just worth 25 cents, but could potentially change your entire life. That's the kind of moment that keeps collectors hooked and dreamers searching. And it's also why you should never underestimate the value of the coins you come across in your daily life. Because as this story proves, even the most ordinary-looking piece of change can hold an extraordinary secret. And just when you think you've heard it all, the next coin we're about to explore takes things to an entirely new level, with a twist that no one saw coming and a rarity that might make this one seem almost common by comparison. So don't go anywhere, because if you thought this 1998 P quarter was unbelievable, the next coin is even more shocking and could completely redefine what you think is possible in the world of rare coins.